I'm Liz Creasman. I became a member of Tuckahoe Presbyterian Church in December of 2016, after about 2 years of regularly attending as a visitor. When I first began visiting churches in the area as a newlywed, my husband openly relied on me to have more criteria than he could dream of, and waited for me to just let him know my decision of which church we would join. He was probably right, but my criteria was less of a checklist and more of an exploration of faith. I wanted to find a place to belong as we grew in our faith and eventually as a family. I remember a few things distinctly from my time as a visitor. I was working each Sunday and often had to scoot out during the final hymn, but I always knew when I wandered through the fellowship hall, I would be offered a snack and lemonade on the way out, and someone would likely check in by phone or email soon. There were always playful groups of kids running down the aisle towards the time with young disciples. I remember the laughter-filled fellowship hall on the days I was able to stay a little later. I was impressed by the impact of intergenerational programming. When I inquired about Sunday school options, I was assured that not everyone agreed, but they all remained friends after a healthy debate. I was comforted by traditions and also challenged by thoughtful references and discussions of current events. I continued to encourage my husband to join me, and one day he admitted that he had visited without me. He agreed with several of the factors that prompted me to keep coming back: music, friendly folks, tradition, and fellowship. He had felt welcomed from his first visit. Although we didn't have children yet, I knew I wanted the support of a church family to help teach our children about God's love when we became parents. I grew up in the Presbyterian Church, where we had several intergenerational offerings, and I had several adult advisors that I know I could still call on to this day. My husband and I both agreed that we could see the robust support of the Tuckahoe family. We saw babies held in the fellowship coffee hour, frequent baptisms, children showing off their crafts after children's worship, and small hands reaching for snacks off the table with friendly people around to help. Although I visited regularly, I knew I wanted to contribute more and become more involved in the programming. In joining the church, our group discussed the facets of stewardship, including time, money, and talents. I am always impressed with how many opportunities there are at Tuckahoe to support our congregation and the greater community. Within a year of joining the church, I began a rotation teaching the middle school Sunday school class. It was important to me to support the youth programming, knowing we would depend on it one day, and knowing that I had met many of my spiritual advisors through youth programming. We had a thoughtful group that thrived on connection, supported one another, and prompted discussion that led to spiritual exploration. Similar to what I had heard of the adult classes, everyone stayed friends after debate. We used a thoughtful curriculum with relatable prompts and activities centered around God's presence. I'm pretty sure the lesson plans also said something about donuts, but maybe I added that part. I have learned so much about God's love from our youth as they keep each other accountable, they celebrate one another, they embrace each other's strengths, and they lend support to one another each week. I'm sure several of the members of our youth group now were part of the Young Disciples group running in the sanctuary when I was a visitor, and it is amazing to see them continue to explore the word of the Lord. I had imagined our church involvement would change some when we became parents, and then our son was born 3 weeks into the COVID-19 pandemic. There was so much uncertainty, and we didn't know what support was even safe to ask for. Members of the Tuckahoe family were a few of the first we interacted with as a family of 3. Visitation in the hospital was restricted. However, one of our church members is also a nurse on the mother and baby unit where we were. Seeing a familiar face who represented the support of our church family meant so much. We received pastoral calls with prayers that were also an impactful part of our hospital stay with each of our babies. We enjoyed showing off our newborn through our glass door or distanced in the front yard with folks dropping off meals. I received several phone calls just to check in. I was able to watch many Sunday services in my PJs with a wiggly newborn nearby, and communion was often donuts, and coffee. This helped to break up the monotony of maternity leave in a pandemic and reminded me of the support of our church family. Although this was different than anticipated, it was exactly what we needed, and we were amazed by the adaptability of our church family. We felt supported and loved, despite having pretty high boundaries with a newborn in the pandemic. During the fall of 2020, Sunday school did not return, and I continued to assist with the youth group. I was impressed with the insight from our youth who just wanted to be together. We tried to do the Zoom thing for a while over the summer, and the youth were adamant that they would do whatever necessary to safely be together for in-person fellowship. We were often on the front lawn, and my son often joined me. He was warmly and loudly welcomed. It began to weigh on me that my husband and son had not had a chance to be baptized yet. Although I had joined the church, and my husband frequently visited, he had expressed preference to join the church with our first child. In-person services had resumed, but we were more comfortable joining virtually with our newborn. We had the opportunity to be part of a pre-recorded service for the Sunday after Christmas that year, due to the cleaning schedule of the chapel. I was honored that our concerns were honored, and the leadership in the church recognized the importance of this accommodation. As our son became old enough to start participating in some activities, and our daughter was just a few months old, Tuckahoe announced we had a new director of Christian education. I was delighted to find out it was a friend from the church family I grew up in. I remembered our time in the youth choir together and have since found a few pictures of us dressed as angels for the Christmas pageant. I then knew that Hannah would help foster this community for our youth with the values I grew up with. We have since returned to in-person more for music, play, and fellowship. My son was so excited to dress as an angel for the pageant last year and have cake with Jesus for the church's birthday. My daughter now knows who to go to for snacks and where to find them on her own, and she loves to dance to the music in the sanctuary or at events. They have both enjoyed Compassion Camp for songs and meeting other church members. We value the foundation of service, and we know that with practice, they will soon put more snacks in packed lunches and bite fewer apples in the process. My faith journey at Tuckahoe has led me through job changes, grad school, and welcoming 2 children earthside. I have seen our youth serve others, explore their faith, and celebrate one another. I have been blessed to find Tuckahoe Presbyterian Church and transition from a regular visitor to a member while bringing my family along. The youth will tell you that I often ask them what strengths the Lord has given them that will guide them through the coming week. So in closing, I want to thank each of you for your support of my family and our youth. And I invite you to think of the strength that God has given you and how it can lead you through this season of stewardship. And consider how you can contribute, knowing that the impact is endless as we each go into the world fueled by the support of one another.